these wonderful writers every month. And without further ado, I will introduce both of these wonderful guys to you, and then they will take it away. If you have any questions for either of them, mainly for Cliff and for his novel, Pretty Enough for You, please put them in the chat. I will get to them. Someone will get to them. Let's see. Okay. So, Tony Diaz is going to moderate the conversation. I'm going to introduce him first. Can I just mention the skeleton playing the banjo sitting? That's the greatest thing in the entire universe. Can we just like have a little look at that, please? Oh my God.
Well,
I love it.
Sort of.
You'll have to play the banjo. Can we have a little banjo playing later?
You don't want him to play.
We got to hear how to kill the guy to get that, but
okay.
Yeah.
He's got evidence of a
so Tony Diaz was also inducted. Cliff was not also inducted. Cliff has been in the Texas Institute of Letters for a while. So Tony Diaz, this young man, was inducted into the Texas Institute of Letters this year. He's a writer, activist, and professor. El Libro, I'm just going to have you say that. El Libro Traficante.
Excellent.
Okay. He earned a bachelor's degree in communications from DePaul University and was the first Chicano to earn a Master of Fine Arts degree from the University of Houston Creative Writing Program. That's awesome. He is author of the Nilon Award-winning novel, The Aztec Love God, and is included in Hecho en Tejas, an anthology of Texas Mexican literature. His essays have appeared in the Houston Chronicle, the Texas Observer, and CNN.com, among other publications. Diaz is currently a professor of Mexican American literature and rhetorical analysis in Houston, Texas. He is also a political analyst on What's Your Point, which airs on Fox 26 Houston. We should all write that down. I'll put that in the chat window. He hosts the weekly bilingual radio program Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say, on KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. That's 90.1 FM Houston, just so everyone knows. KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. Yes, and in 2012, he made international news when he organized the Libro, I want to get this right, Libro Traficante Caravan to smuggle books banned in Tucson schools back into Arizona. Okay, this is Tony. Now we're going to do Cliff. Can we how do I get Cliff up there? Arizona. Cliff, say something.
Hello?
There you go.
Yes.
Sorry, Tony. So this is our featured writer on the Dig Texas Read. His name is Cliff Hudder. He has an MFA in fiction writing from the University of Houston and a PhD in American literature from Texas A&M. He's one of the most famous regional Texas writers around, by the way. That's in parentheses. I added that. In addition to articles on regional and American literature, his short stories have appeared in the Alaska Quarterly Review, the Kenyon Review, the Missouri Review, and other journals. His work has received the Bartolome and Mishner Awards, the Pedden Prize, and the Short Story Award from the Texas Institute of Letters, which inducted him as a member in 2017. Oh, I didn't know you won that. What did you win? What was the story?
It was called Misplacement. It was in Alaska Quarterly Review.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. His novella, Splinterville, won the 2007 Texas Review Fiction Award, and the Texas Review Press published his novel, Pretty Enough for You, in 2015. Hudder is a professor of English and chair of the departments of psychology and sociology at Lone Star College, Montgomery, in Conroe, Tejas. Welcome to you both. We're very, very excited. Let's get the show on the road.
Excellent. Wonderful introductions. Thank you. First,
anytime.
This is the book. We're celebrating. Hey, Cliff, it's great to join you here. I'm really excited about exposing all the decadence in Pretty Enough for You.
Mm-hmm.
We may even get to a literary reference or two. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because there's so much decadence to get to, but I do want folks to get in the mood. So like I said earlier, I have mixed myself instead of a Cuba Libre, which is boring, you know.
Yeah.
This is Cliff. Tell us the name of this awesome drink that is made literary history.
I think it's a Cuba Tyrannica, which is like a Cuba Libre, only more oppressive.
Exactly. So I've already mixed myself some. And then among other cool references, besides creating this underground literary drink, which I encourage you to mix for yourself at home, we also have in the chat box, I'm going to post it again. If you're from Houston in the 90s, you may remember an after hours club called Club Some, which was emo spelled backwards, as explained in the book. And it's prominently featured in Pretty Enough for You. But we've got a little bit of the music there, which I think you describe perfectly. Cliff, this is like a 90s Houston example of decadence. You've got, you know, the well-to-do acting terribly. You've got immigration laws that are being flouted and violated, manipulation of the news. So this is a homage to us hanging out in the 90s. Then is that the idea?
Yes, I think so. I kind of took our experiences in the 90s, Tony, and folded them into the 21st century. Yeah, and came up with this pretty much. And other things. It has a lot of seeds or you know, beginning places, I guess, that I gathered together and threw it all in one place and came out with this book. But,
well, yeah. You are one of the best short fiction writers that I know in writing today, and I don't just say it because you were best man at my wedding. No, that's right. Not why. But I know some of the short stories you had published evolved into this as well.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and give us kind of the timeline, because this book, it works on so many layers. Like if you just read it, you're going to be laughing. There's plot twists. If you want that, literary references, great use of language. But there's a lot of work behind it that I think might pass the reader quickly. So tell us about the short stories that led up to this and kind of the little bit of how long it took you to get to this point.
Well, I usually say, and there's Kelly Patton is here. Hi, Patton. I usually tell people I met this guy, okay? I actually encountered this guy in around 1995. It was in California. He wasn't a lawyer. He was just a guy. He sat down next to me on a sofa at a party. And every syllable that came out of his mouth was inappropriate. You know, he was like pointing at all the women in the room and I'm going to do this and, you know, and I'll do that. And I think I somehow got in there that I was a photographer at the time. He's like, oh, nudes, you do the nudes. So anything, you know, anything you said. And I kind of took him and turned him into a character when I got back to Texas and just let him go. Just wound him up and let him go in a kind of a rant. And that was a story called Inappropriate Love. It was in Cream City Review in the 97, something like that.
Wow.
And if you ever read it, you all never will, but if you did, it is like, there's no dialogue. If anybody talks, it's just capital letters. So the world is screaming at this guy and he is screaming back. And, you know, so I sort of had him, okay, in my pocket. And then fast forward into the 21st century, and I'm working on my PhD at A&M. And I'm driving to College Station once a week, twice a week. So I decided I'm going to listen to great works of literature and catch up on audiobooks of great literature, use this time, right?
Smart. And
so I have the Scarlet Letter and I'm listening to it and I'm like, this is slow, you know, I think I could improve on that. And it was basically what we always used to talk about in grad school, delusions of grandeur. I can help Hawthorne out with this. Passionate girl, right? Milquetoast Dimsdale that she likes for some reason. Manipulative jerk. Chillingsworth, I think is his name. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm just going to move this to an office triangle, and I'm going to make it an office romance and let Chillingsworth narrate it. And so that's kind of the buried structure underneath. I don't think anybody would ever know that, but it was helpful to me to kind of think of it that way. And it's got little things I stole from the Scarlet Letter. She doesn't have a embroidered letter, but she has a sort of a scarlet tramp stamp. So I just, I took things and transferred them over into contemporary type stuff. And yeah, and there were the eminent domain part was actually kind of a famous case in San Antonio with the Maverick family, that's where we get the word Maverick, right? From this Texas family that had the land grants from way back and all that stuff. And there was going to be a freeway, and the descendants, these two sisters, were like, no, it's ours. We don't care if every community in the region is going to make a lot of money and be pulled out of poverty. That's our land. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was very fascinating. So to the extent it has anything holding it together as a kind of thread, it might be those two things, I suppose. It's a kind of a mistelling of Hawthorne and that case from the 80s.
But I think for folks that might be poets, it's great to hear you evolve these characters over how many years? Because you're about 18 years. So that Harrison Bent haunted you for 18 years, auditioned for 18 years to become the book. You mentioned this real life story of eminent domain. We are going to be using critical race theory here. So I hope everyone has their bail money. But, these old laws that go back, generations that the wealthy have imposed and can manipulate, that's the undertones. You also did a lot of research. Yes. Break that down because, folks can learn how to break immigration laws. We don't advise that. I don't think you want that on your on your conscience, but you can learn how to break some immigration laws here.
Yeah.
How did that come up?
Well, I actually did flunk out of law school, but that wasn't that helpful. I left too early, but when I was a photographer in the 80s and videographer and, industrial film, which in Houston means you work for lawyers for the most part. You work for lawyers for the oil business. And so I hung out with a lot of lawyers, and I liked them. I came to admire them. I thought the work was very interesting, as long as I don't have to do it. It's pretty interesting, So I've kind of had these, I wanted to do something with an attorney. My wife is Japanese, so I did enter the quagmire of immigration law. The very first attorney that we talked to said, I'm not a very good lawyer, but I know how to do this, I'm like, okay. And then as it evolved, I really consulted a lot of lawyers. On eminent domain, my friend here in Montgomery County is a former district attorney of Montgomery County, Daniel Rice. He's a poet also, and he hangs out with some of our literary activities here. I spoke to Jacob Monti, the big labor and immigration guy. I spoke to the finest immigration attorney in the region, Carolina Ortizar Diaz.
I heard she's good. She's good.
I actually,
that's the word on the street.
among other things I did is I went and had dinner at Tony and Carolina's house, and they didn't realize I would have a notebook during the dinner. But as you know, as far as the machination, the behind the scenes type stuff, Carolina, it was a great source, and very thoughtfully looked at the manuscript afterwards. And I say in here, I make it clear in the acknowledgments, if there's anything just wrong as far as law or policy, it's not on those people. That's all on me, you know.
She doesn't get disbarred. You lose your writer's license then. So
I know.
That's fair.
Know.
That's fair, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, meticulous, brother, that's like.
Sure. You know what's funny though? I do believe you can over research, which sounds terrible, but novels, and you've written one, and David knows, and several people here know. When something gets to be a certain size, it develops its own logic, kind of, and things sort of have to happen a certain way. And my good friend David Levinson and I talk about this. It becomes like an ecosystem, like an ecology, and the characters and the ideas have a natural selection, or they die. You know, they're destroyed by tooth and nail. The story wipes them out. So it's interesting, you know, all that research. You have to do more research than ends up in the book, I think. But yeah.
But I think it's also why you can have this topsy-turvy roller coaster ride, you know, of the book, not get lost. And there's like undertones too, because here you are pinpointing laws, but it's a bunch of BS too. You know, it's kind of like the powerful are manipulating us. Here's these poor immigrants at the mercy of these laws. And here's these people in the middle, you know, exploiting each other. In all fairness, they're all mean to each other. So, you know, that kind of
I think that's right.
Field.
And I actually took this into a workshop at Texas A&M. I took an early draft. It was terrible.
You know what's funny? You thank Angie Cruz. Awesome Dominicana writer. I didn't realize she had a role in this. Break that down. That kind of surprised me when I saw that.
Yeah, I was in grad school at A&M, and Angie was there teaching.
But you were there as a lawyer.
I was there as a literary critic, right? American literature. But I had written this like 200-page screed, which is basically Mr. Bent just going off, right? And I saw that she had a workshop and that I could use it as 3 credit hours. What are they called? Those things you take, electives. Thank you. And like, yeah, all right. So she's fantastic. She probably turned it into a novel.
Wow.
And also, I know there's some teachers here like Dee Dee. I had been teaching creative writing for a couple decades when I went in there. That is a very interesting shoe to wear on the other little foot. I'll tell you what, is to have people tell you about your writing and what's so wrong with it. But yeah, she helped me a lot and really shaped it. And it was just a lot of shouting, I think, the very first manuscript that I went in with.
You know what, Cliff? I tell you what, we're talking about the book logically. Why don't you sell some copies here? Can you read some sections? I love the book. The voice is awesome. I'd love to hear you throw down a little bit right now.
Oh, I'm gonna throw down. Okay, let's see. And this is my old copy. If you didn't get a chance to read it, somebody introduced me one time, and I liked what she said so much I wrote it down. She said, "This is a book about a jerk, adulterer, alcoholic, prescription drug addict, manipulator, and lawyer." Which
Best
I liked.
blurb ever.
Yeah. So I'll try this. This is just the introductory part. I know myself. That's the good news. That's also the bad news. For example, I knew I was not equipped to deal with the Leudecke case. I also knew I wouldn't turn it down or hand it off to somebody better suited, but seriously, what background did I have in eminent domain or with Mexican drug dealers or dead Mexican drug dealers? None, and I knew it. I know October too. October is the month of change. Maybe not for most, but for me, that's how it is. Or that's how it was last October, because in that month, I was put in charge of the Leudecke case. I was hounded by a crazy pyro ghost giant. I got assaulted in Mexico, solved a couple of murders of dead Mexican drug dealers. And let's see, there was a witch involved. But most important, the biggest thing was I ended up very close to asking this girl, this young girl, to run away with me forever. I was very nearly about to propose to her that we began a profound and enduring and meaningful relationship of reciprocal love right there from scratch. Let's go. And it was in the middle of her wedding too, or her reception at least. I came very close. Then Henry, my son Henry, he touched his foot to home base, scored the last go-ahead run in the bottom of the 7th inning. There were only 7 innings. Last run of the season and a series championship game, although that, of course, was summertime. But his big moment came about because of what happened last October too. Because of how I tried the best I could to win the Leudecke case in that month, but failed miserably and lost my job. You can't have a month like that and keep a job. You'd probably get thrown out of a wedding reception by guys in green jackets too, like I did, plus get fired. But maybe that loss of my job, not what's important. Not as important as a young girl thing anyway, at least not in my mind. Now that I think it over, it's possible I might have given the wrong impression, so I need to clarify. Really, this is 1 week in October I'm talking about, or 1 week and 2 days to be precise. October in Houston is a bitch. Even before all that, when I was with Alice, her sprawled on the high king-size mattress in her thong, her FBI t-shirt, her brown vinyl jacket, I'm pretty sure I already knew about her too. I knew what I was about to do to her. I didn't know I'd do it twice or lose Chloe or lose my job or that Henry would score the winning run of the championship season or that I'd end up here. No, I knew what I was going to do to Alice. There were plenty of other things I did not know. You don't really need to read the rest of it, kind of. It's all built in there.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You mentioned that workshop with at Texas A&M, but you also think someone that's near and dear to my heart as well is Daniel Stern, who was a writer at the Creative Writing Program.
Yes.
You mentioned some of Stern's rules as well. Tell folks a little bit about that.
Well, I was very heavily influenced during getting my MFA by Daniel Stern. I took 3 things from him. I took 2 workshops, and remember Modern Thought? We had to take Modern Thought, and he had us reading all kinds of really interesting things and looking into the Holocaust. He was a very early, back in the 50s, writing about the Holocaust, and he was not a survivor. He was a New Yorker, but he was one of the first people to take it up, kind of seriously, write about it. And yeah, Stern's laws, not Stern's rules, Stern's laws. Really, don't you think so? Kind of, he wanted us to be pretty conventional, right? He was always kind of stressing plot and character development and, you know, he didn't use these terms you hear these days. You know, sometimes the Molly's here, like, I think it's inciting incident. You can't pick up a writing magazine without hearing about inciting incident now. But yeah, he wanted you to grab that reader, right? Absolutely, I hear him in my head all the time. I'm working on a novel now, and I hear him, and he's saying things like, "Hey, Hudder, is this going to start pretty soon? You know, I'm reading this thing here. When is it going to get going?" But yeah, incredible guy. What was it? 7 or 8 novels. No degree. He had a high school degree, I think, but he was a polymath and an autodidact, actually. You know, very much self-taught. Worked in the film business. Turned Death in Venice into a movie. Try that. You know, try to pull that off. So yeah, very important person for me, and passed away. I think it was 2013 when he passed away.
Well, and I think you bring up that interesting tension of when you say, you know what, maybe conventional, that maybe that's not the word I would use, more so that because he wasn't, like you say, he wasn't trained in the literary criticism part or the MFA part, but he loved stories and I think had a vernacular for what things work. Because at the end of the day, you could use all these fancy terms. You got to be sitting there with a reader. And I think that's something that you do powerfully in that I feel that the character is very much alive. I feel that there's real decisions and that it could go either way. You know, it could go either way. But at the same time, that the character is still, you know, very sincere, very honest, has a heart of gold. He may be all the things that that person introduced you said, yeah. You know, but still has a heart in there. And to me, kind of see that they've been hurt and not quite recovered from it. But I guess there's plot, cool stuff happens, you get surprised, and even things that seem random have all these multiple effects, like the title. Tell folks about Pretty Enough for You. Tell us a little bit about that title.
It's not too complicated, I guess. There is a song by the late Elliott Smith called Pretty Enough, Ugly Before, I think is the title. But in one of the lyrics is, I felt pretty enough for you. I felt so ugly before, I didn't know what to do. Okay. And I think it's an ironic song, as in another case of someone who doesn't feel good about themselves, which I would say applies really to this character. He does not have a pretty life. And he's always kind of like reaching out and trying to find something or some person, right? And if you can hook up with or get a meaningful relationship with some person, that will mean he's okay. You know, I felt ugly before, but I'm pretty enough for you. So that will be like a kind of salvation thing, and that never works, right? I think, generally speaking, you can't rely on if you've got something going bad at the core, and you know some other person isn't going to be able to come along and fix that for you. But that was it. It's a cool song, and Paul Ruffin told me it was okay to quote that lyric as a kind of epigraph. I'm not sure he was right about that, but anyway,
we need some intellectual property lawyers in the book in one way.
Yeah, I need a
way or the other. Well, one of the other layers too, I do love the artwork on the cover, because it's one of those books. I think I was telling you, like, if I would have been thinking of it, I'd have had, you know, a lawyer drinking, you know, club some in the back, two drinks in each hand. This is a really fantastic cover, especially as it has the coyote in there. This really is awesome because it fits. Break this down for us. Tell us about the origins of it. And am I crazy? This has got so many connections to the actual novel too.
I think so too. And some I found out after the fact. But
after you wrote it.
Yeah, as far as the design, I love it. And that's Texas Review Press. They're awesome. J. Bruce Fuller over there, and it was Paul Ruffin at the time. But they actually hired a designer, is Nancy Parsons, Dave Parsons' wife. She's a graphic designer, and she did a lot of their books, and they're just really distinctive. You know, I was actually at the Texas Book Fair, sitting there with this book, and I don't know if it's maybe a little unfortunate, but a lot of like 12 and 13-year-olds came up and they saw this cover, like, oh, what's that? Well, you know, you might want to look down the other aisle
You got 22 bucks, kid. You got 22 bucks. Go on.
Can be yours.
For credit card.
Can be yours. Yeah. Get your parents to read that to you. But yeah, and she just kind of clued in on that theme. I think thematically, you know, notice he's also screaming too. He's you know, kind of howling at the stars or something like that. And the when I was very little, my family took me out to a bar, as families do, in East Texas, and there was like an ice house, and someone had captured a juvenile coyote, and it was in a wire cage, like in the book. And that really struck me, and that always stayed with me. And to see a wild thing, a bit just obviously wild thing, caged up like that, it was very upsetting. So I carried that along, you know. But also the character is, he's a mess. He's a total hot mess, breaking rules, and you know, crossing boundaries. But I didn't want him to be unlikable either. You know, you got to in some way be pulling for those kind of characters. I love those kind of characters. I love Will Self in Martin Amis Money, for example, might be the prototype. But yeah, this is in the Southwest. This is the coyote, right? This is the trickster who is always violating norms, but usually accidentally. You know, he's just wandering around, kind of, and a border crosser and all that. So I thought thematically, bringing in that coyote worked with him. And then, is she still here? She may, oh yeah, Molly Lasco read the book and told me what's really going on. It's great when people do that. This is,
what did I tell you, Cliff?
You said that this character, let me see if I remember exactly. This character is gnawing his own leg off, trying to escape from the cage he built for himself.
Yes, that's right. I'm brilliant.
Yeah. I thought, yeah, that's it. That's it.
You too can get a degree in Cliff Hudder studies. So.
Yeah, critical Hudder studies. That'll be a good thing.
But and I think maybe that's the artist of the book communicating with the artist of the book cover, because even coyotes are what you call smugglers of people. You've got the whole immigration layers in there. Right. You got, and the coyote, I'll say it in English, coyote. The coyote has the bloodshot eyes, which either scary or pathetic. You know what I mean? Like some days he's just drunken, you know, stupor, pathetic. Other days he's scary. Yeah. On the hill, in that light, the swerving road.
The coyote is like the narco trafficantes or the libro trafficantes, you know, transgressors, right? They're all transgressors, but also heroic too. There's all of the songs about them and things like that. So great. It's a great mix. Conflict is what, in my opinion, makes stories work, especially internal conflict. So it's another reason I'm drawn to these kind of people who have a love-hate relationship with themselves, kind of, you know, as characters.
Well, and you know, you mentioned the conflict, so people should know that there's a lot of sex, there's fights.
I don't think there's a lot of sex. There's a lot of sex that doesn't happen. You know, there's a lot of awkwardness.
This is the lawyer in you speaking. So the two bodies touching was not technically sex. You're right.
That's right. That's right.
Technically, no sex was had.
You know, the great, wonderful passion of union. So hard to write about. Much easier, you know, much more interesting to get in the awkwardness and you know, the problems of getting together and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think as a writer, that's, I noticed that I have a lot of that kind of thing going on. People don't get together. People do not get together in my stories.
Well, I know we had a certain schedule. I'm going to do, oh, wait, you have a question. Does the character in your new novel have a love-hate relationship with himself too?
I think so. It's Didi. I would say it this way. He seems to realize that when he's screwing up, he seems to know that he's doing the wrong thing and even put himself on alert about that. and then goes right ahead and does exactly, you know, the wrong thing. He'll say to himself, I need to hold back here. You know, I like the scene in Mexico with the police where he said, I'm in Mexico, I need to be careful with these guys, a foreign country, anything could happen. And when they walk up to him, he says, you'll never take me alive. You know? I would call that a kind of love, hate, and, you know, not wanting to belong to a club that would have him as a member, yet also narcissistic in many ways. Yeah.
Well, the people have precipitated this question. So then you're working on your next book.
Yes. Yes.
Title, date. Does that explain all the bar notes behind you? I see little bar note napkin squiggles.
Yeah, the Bev naps. Yeah, it's all on Bev naps right now. Yeah.
What can you tell us?
You know, I have plenty of friends who talk about what they're working on and they seem to be fine with it, but it makes me very nervous. I'm very superstitious about it. And I don't even put the title on things. I won't put the title on a work until I'm ready to send it to Kelly Patton. Kelly Patton is here. One of my first reliable, they're beta readers, or they're alpha readers also, because I think she might be an alpha reader. There's Kelly. She runs the Houston Public Library. The entire library system is under her control. No, okay, but anyways, maybe a branch, and she's a great reader. But until that time, you know, when I'm ready to like let go and put it out there, I don't like to talk about it.
It's interesting to see this religious pagan side of you. So okay,
yeah, I know.
You want to protect the muses. That's
yeah.
That's fair enough.
Well, the other thing, I shouldn't say it this way, but you probably remember from grad school, people who would tell us about their books that they're writing, and it was, you know, go on and on. Where are these books? You know, it's like all the energy goes into talking about it or something. So
say it that way. Now I'm with you. It's like it's like you're busy writing it to brag on it before it actually exists.
Makes me nervous.
That's cool. Now, I got plenty more to ask you, especially about some of the characters, if they're based on real people. But I want to see what other folks want to ask before we get to the lightning round as well. And, well, let's titillate, folks. So you've done such meticulous research. Would it be possible to go through these characters then and say, hey, you know what? This person sounds like this person in real life. First of all, that's a yes or no question. Is it possible to do that with the characters in your novel?
I believe the disclaimer says, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it might be somewhat possible. I mean, some of it's based. It's got a real Houston base to it, so some of it's based on kind of figures in the scene, you know, that inspired some of the characters. So yeah, I guess.
The lawyer in you surfaces. Okay, that's fair enough. So there's that. I am gonna make space for folks to ask different questions, and as we wait for them to work up their nerve, because you might You must shock them with your answers. I do want to walk through so many of the different other Houston references because I think you capture that as well. Lumpies. So you changed the name. He changed the name so they wouldn't sue you or what? Or maybe they would sell the book in the store. So who is Lumpies a reference that?
Yeah,
you suspect it is?
I'm afraid so. I'm blank. What do they call that thing? I'm blanking on it with the squirrel.
You're scaring me to say the name. So
no, but I think people know. I think everybody knows what it is. It's the giant mega convenience store.
The big rat, that big vermin.
It's a rat. Yeah, that's right. It's a rat.
So Buc-ee's. So
Buc-ee, thank you. Sorry, I actually blanked on what it's called. Yeah,
I thought you were being coy. I'm like, this guy's really a good lawyer. Like
those fascinate me. You know, I mean, it is crazy what's in there. What's in those places. What can you not buy at Buc-ee's? And I'm trying to get my PhD in Cliff Hudder studies because even that, it's like it isn't, but it's not because it's a skewed vision. And those things are huge in Texas because we got these long ass roads. Like, you know, first time I drove to El Paso, which sounded like a great idea at the time. You know, you're in this friggin' state for a friggin' long time. It's great to have a place that's well lit, you know, there's clean bathrooms. So it ties in exactly to your story, which is about eminent domain and roads. Once again, someone is telling me about my book, something I haven't. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why you kept it.
Yeah.
And then I recognize this place as 311 Hawthorne. So I'm right. 311 Hawthorne in Montrose. Montrose is prominent in the book, of course.
Yeah.
Is that 311 Hawthorne?
Tony is talking about this place where I lived and where he met his wife. Isn't that right? Yeah.
But I want to make that clear. The woman I would marry. It's not like I went to, my wife is here, especially with your book. That could be like, what is my wife doing here?
That's well put. Yeah. And it was like, what was that show? It was basically a show about
90210.
Was it that? Okay. I thought
no, Melrose Place.
Melrose, thank you. Yeah, Melrose Place, right? There was a pool and it was surrounded by all these, and all the people were crossing in the middle of the night. Yeah. So that's where I lived for a while. Yeah, thanks, David. Exactly. They were, you know, doing the nasty. But yeah, it's based on it's 411, right?
411. Yes.
Terrible to get old. The best thing about that place is we had a fantastic Christmas celebration every year. We floated a Christmas tree in the pool. We built a little plywood island and ran electrical lines across the water. Deadly. It was just deadly dangerous little party we would have over there. Yeah, but it was kind of a place. It's kind of a center of interest there in Montrose.
And indicative of the time. Let's see. Oh, you have a question from Kelly Patton. Do you every day? How do you make yourself actually finish a project, Mr. Hudder?
Yeah.
Let me write this down. Hold on. I gotta take notes when you answer this.
I don't write every day, Kelly, because I feel like it's my work. You know, my days get really fragmented in a community college, and now I'm doing administrative stuff. But in a community college, you also get 4 weeks at Christmas and basically 12 weeks in summertime. I'm doing other little administrative. So I need to ramp up, get on the runway, and get everything really going, and be able to spend a few hours a day for long periods, and to stop is hellish too. You know, to stop doing that. I have various tricks. I have deadlines. I'm not doing it with this book, but I mean, I tell people about this. My therapist recommended it. Let's see, is that it really worked when I was poor. I would get my checkbook and write a check for $1,000. or just whatever I had in my checking account. And I would write it out to my worst enemy in the world, right? And not like Osama bin Laden or someone you actually know who has maybe broken your heart and then eaten it in front of you. Somebody like that, you know, somebody you don't want to give $1,000 to ever. Address it to that person, put it inside an envelope, give that to a trusted soul, and tell them, if I don't give you 500 pages by September 1st, you are to drop this in a mailbox of your choice.
Wow.
And I had a very good therapist. Very practical. She gave me practical life advice, things like that.
That's awesome.
I do think it's hard. It's really hard. A lot of people here know that. And you kind of got to, however you can talk yourself in or trick yourself into finishing. I think you got to do it.
I like what you say too, because it also, there's no excuse. You're like, this is going to get done. This is going to get done.
Yeah.
Let me get to the next question. But I want to read one line that ties into it. How do you make your characters unlikability likable, and vice versa? And here's a line, because Harrison Bent thinks things like this: they were losers who knew they were losers, as opposed to the other more common kind. How do you make us like that guy? Which I do. I like the guy.
I might have failed too. There's always that. you try. I can tell you that it ends up being a real Frankenstein sort of process. And you were edging towards asking me if these are based on real people. Sometimes, but it's always a combination too. It's always like, I'll take an arm here and a head from over here, and you just have to move them around until it sort of seems right. And like I was kind of going to before, and this might go to even what Xenia is asking. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but a novel especially, it starts to get some sort of weight or mass, and it starts to push the characters around, in my experience. Or that's how it does it for me. And it starts to, you need a certain kind of character in order to make this thing happen that has to happen. And in all of that process, hopefully you then sort of end up with somebody that the reader can get behind. They can understand that he's wrong. He's getting a lot of things wrong, but the book has it. The book knows that. The book understands that he's, a hot mess too, even though he's narrating. So other than that, I don't know. It's always, any good character is a contradiction, I think.
If I can add something, and we've got about 5 more minutes to get to the next question, and at least 2 more. Let me add something as well. I think when we're talking about the book cover, you created this universe where the book knows. So even these other signs are coming out, they're revealing themselves to you. I think I shouldn't have started this so logically, talking about, the foundations of this, because some of it is magic. It's still art, but your characters then say things like this. And I'd accomplished it all by failing to live up to their collective perception of my complete ineptitude. So there's sort of an honesty that's also heartbreaking, where it's like, he knows, things.
Yeah. If he was pulling all this stuff and gleeful about it, it'd be a much less successful kind of a character. But I think I have some people who've read it and just can't stand him anyway. So you're always working it. You're always trying to do something, and sometimes it works. I like him. I'm impressed with him. He's so brave to me. It's like this is might be something I might have thought about doing some of this stuff maybe, but then no, I don't think so, right? And he just does it. So that's it's kind of impressive to me. Yeah.
And you sort of touched on the question, but here's the question. Aside from length, how is writing a novel different than writing short stories? And they're both hard in their own way, perhaps.
Yeah. I think, and I used to be interested in boat building, believe it or not. I built a plywood skiff. But, you know, if you build a really fine, small rowboat with ribs and planks and everything, it's basically just smaller pieces of what you would use to build a yacht. It's the same kind of thing, you know? So some of it is really just that. They're both hard. There's no room for error in a short story either. It's got to hit very, very quickly. Like that's what I got that from Daniel Stern. I think that's true. There's no, at least I don't think, there are probably a lot of examples that would belie this, but most short stories have no fat on them. Everything in there is doing a job or two jobs or three jobs. And the wonderful thing about a novel, same principles as far as getting a good story, but you can go off to the side, you know. there's elbow room. You can make little asides and stuff like that, which is liberating, I think. You can have something that's thematically makes sense, even if it's not driving that plot forward. At least I think that's true. I think I like novels like that. They can, there's some room to be more expansive. I think they're both hard and very similar. I write short stories and I write novels and I write articles about regional literature. Yeah, I'm not the most famous regional. I am a minor regional writer. But if you watched me do it, it would all look the same. I do use bev naps, like you say, little notes on scraps, and I just spread that all out spatially. You know, I try to look at it all and start moving it around in space. So I will do that for a short story. I will do that for this novel I'm working on now. I work on at a community college, so I've got a room that seats 75 people, and there's tables in there, and I can really, you know, just do several chapters worth of stuff. So, it's the same, and it's also different. The scale makes it different somehow.
That's awesome. Well, I think we've come up on the 8 o'clock marker. Any parting words, Cliff? What didn't we touch on? And I hope folks will pick up the book if they haven't. I really love it. I really loved it. I loved rereading it. It was great to
Thank you.
sit down with it again.
I love.
I have to say, I love the cover. I forgot. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cover, but Tony, you got the cover. It's really interesting. I mean, we've all seen a lot of book covers, and Cliff, that's really a great book cover. I mean, it's really. I remember you showed me 2 different ones, and it was so clear that was the book cover.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
It was so. You know, we've all had editors who are like, "Look, this is what we want to do," and you're like, "Really? No. What are you thinking?" You know, so it's nice. So I mean, it really is a great book cover. It really fits the book so well, and everyone should buy it. If you haven't bought it, go to texasreviewpress.org. I'm not sure how much it is. Is it $22? I don't. 14, 16, 22.
Must be $22. You used to could get it on Kindle for $2.99, but I think
you can get it on Kindle also. But you really want to buy. The cover is a work of art. So,
Kim Davis.
Nancy Parsons is so talented. Agreed.
Really, it
yes.
really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd want her to do my book cover. I mean,
I can hook you up.
Yeah. You know, my last book cover. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah. You know, these big artsy types in New York. What do they know?
Hey.
Nothing. Zero. Okay. Are any other questions for Cliff? Any for Tony? No?
Tony's got a book coming out in about a year.
Oh, great.
Worth checking into.
Thank you. July 2022. Thank you for mentioning that, Cliff. I appreciate
Congrats.
it. Thank you.
The tip
What's
of the
called?
pyramid.
What is it? What's it all about?
Nonfiction. It's called The Tip of the Pyramid. The subtitle is Cultivating Creative Cultural Capital. And it's gonna spark community movements across Texas, and it's gonna be a action time for folks in the community. So
great.
If only we
look forward to it.
That would be so great if we could.
Yeah. Seriously. That's great. Thank you guys. This has been fantastic. Thank you guys for coming. I'm not sure who. Oh, is it Nan? Nan, I think Nan is up in August, I believe. Nan Kuba.
Oh, great.
You guys should come. Nan is amazing. And did you want to say something, Cliff? Sorry, I cut you off.
I was just going to thank you and Tony, and thanks for thank Blake and Alexandra also and their organizations, and for having me, and everybody who came. It's great to see you guys. I really appreciate it. So
my pleasure.
We loved having you, and Tony, as always, you're the best.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Come back anytime. We'll have you on if you want to come. When your novel,
I love it.
When your book comes out, that would be great. We'd love it.
Thank you.
I'll grill you. Actually,
yeah, we can do you can do the reverse cowgirl, and
yeah,
Anyway,
awesome.
On that note, thank you guys so much. We'll see you in a month.
Awesome.
I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
It was a blast. Bye.
Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Let's see.
Why did Becky enter the waiting room?
Don't know. How do I get out?
You don't. You never get out. You can wait. What is it? What's the line? You can only come and never leave.
You can check out anytime you like.
Here we go. Do you want me to check out?